she'll listen closely. When darkness wraps the world and dreams begin to stir, you've arrived at the right place. Welcome to Between Dreams and Shadows, the sanctuary of stories that live between sleep and the unknown. Here, every tale is more than a story. It's a portal to hidden worlds, forgotten secrets, whispers from beyond, and shadows that speak as your eyes begin to close. If you're drawn to mysteries, haunting legends, and stories that send shivers down your spine, this channel is your new nighttime ritual. Before we begin, I invite you to become part of this growing nightbound community. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a tale. New stories drop regularly, always under the veil of night. Like this video if you enjoy that chill before sleep. It helps this channel grow and lets me bring you deeper, darker stories. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had a strange dream or felt something watching in the dark? Your experience might inspire the next tale now. Take a deep breath, turn off the lights, leave the world behind, and get ready to drift. Between Dreams and Shadows, setting the atmosphere. I've always considered myself someone who enjoys solitude. No roommates, no visitors, just me and the quiet comfort of my small apartment, tucked away on the third floor of an old building. The kind of place where the walls hum softly at night and the wooden floors creak with the memory of footsteps long past. It was one of those cold, silent nights. The wind outside pressed against the windows, whispering through the cracks. I sat at my desk, laptop open, trying to focus on work while the world outside drowned itself in darkness. Midnight was approaching, the hour when everything feels heavier, quieter, wrong, even. There was an odd stillness that night, a kind of silence so deep it didn't feel natural. No cars outside, no muffled voices from neighbors, just emptiness. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but something in me refused to type. A strange sensation prickled at the back of my neck. It wasn't loud, it wasn't even noticeable at first, but as I leaned back in my chair, I couldn't shake the growing awareness that something was off. A faint draft brushed against my skin, but the windows were sealed shut. Then came the smell, faint but distinct, damp earth, like wet footprints left to dry on an old rug. My eyes drifted toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. I was absolutely sure I had closed it earlier. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the door didn't latch properly. Maybe the draft was stronger than it felt. Logical explanations, rational thoughts, anything to silence the quiet pulse of dread blooming in my chest. But logic doesn't always win, not when the air feels heavy, as though someone else is breathing in the same space as you. I stood up, swallowing the lump rising in my throat. My bare feet padded softly across the wooden floor, every step sounding louder than it should in the suffocating silence. I reached for the bedroom door, hand trembling slightly, and pushed it open. The room looked the same. Bed, lamp, desk, shadows draped the corners. Nothing was out of place, or so I thought, until I noticed the footprints. Damp, bare, human footprints, trailing across my bedroom floor, leading away from my bed. I stood frozen, paralyzed. My mind scrambled to make sense of it. No one else was here. I live alone. I know I live alone. The first signs of disturbance, my heartbeat thundered in my ears, loud enough that I wondered if the neighbors could hear it, if I had neighbors anymore. My eyes locked onto the footprints, trying to convince myself they weren't real. Maybe it was water from my own feet, but no, I hadn't stepped into anything wet. I hadn't even left the apartment all day. The prints were fresh, damp enough to glisten under the soft glow of the hallway light spilling into the bedroom. I followed them, with my gaze 3 steps forward from the side of my bed, then veering toward the closet, and disappearing into nothing. No exit, no trail leaving the room, just gone. I stood at the threshold for a long moment, trying to decide if stepping forward was an act of bravery or stupidity. Eventually, Curiosity won over fear just barely. Slowly, carefully, I tiptoed inside. My eyes scanned the familiar space, searching for something, anything out of place. But it all looked normal. And yet, it wasn't. The normality felt forced, like a stage set designed to look ordinary, but hiding something sinister behind the curtains. Then I noticed the closet. Door open, only a crack. But I never leave it open. I stared at it, breath shallow, expecting something. A sound, a movement, a sign that this was just my imagination running wild. But it wasn't imagination. Something shifted. Not visibly, but the atmosphere. The air itself seemed to ripple subtly. The shadows near the closet grew. Heavier, darker, as though absorbing the weak light from the hallway. My fingers trembled as I reached for the closet handle. As soon as I touched it, a sudden sharp knock echoed from the living room, 3 loud, deliberate raps against the wall. I spun around, heart lurching into my throat. My living room was empty. From where I stood, I could see the small sofa, the coffee table, my desk. Nothing out of place. No one there. But as I squinted into the gloom, something was wrong. The picture frame on the wallet was tilted. Not much. Just enough to notice. Just enough to know it wasn't like that before. I stepped back, instinctively glancing over my shoulder toward the closet. Still closed. Still silent. But now, the atmosphere shifted again, like the very air was holding its breath. Then, the faintest sound. A soft scuffle. A whisper of movement. Something being dragged, or shifted, somewhere nearby. I turned toward the bedroom window. For a split second, I could have sworn I saw a shadow cross it. But, impossible. I live on the 3rd floor. The dread tightened around me like a noose. No footsteps, no voices. Just the overwhelming sensation that I wasn't alone, and yet there was no one to see. No one to hear, no one, except the footprints. The footprints that started from my bed. The sound that shouldn't exist. I stood frozen, every muscle tense, listening, straining. The silence was no longer empty. It was full. Full of something unseen, something waiting. Then it came. A sound so faint, it almost felt like it was inside my own head. But it wasn't. I know it wasn't. A whisper. No words, just breathing. Soft, raspy, wet. Like someone or something exhaling from a mouth, far too close to my ear. But there was no one behind me. I spun around, arms raised instinctively, but nothing was there. Nothing but air dot, or at least that's what my eyes told me. The breathing stopped. Dead silence. But then, another sound, a low hum, vibrating. Faint, but steady, coming from the walls themselves, like a distant engine. Or a voice humming a monotone note, just low enough to make me question if I was actually hearing it. I stepped backward, until my legs hit the edge of the bed. I glanced down at the footprints again. Still there, unchanged, damp against the wooden floor, as if mocking me. Then, something shifted on my desk. I turned sharply. The chair, a simple wooden chair, was moving. Not much, just a subtle, slow turn. As if someone had placed a hand on the backrest and lazily pushed it. My mouth went dry, my skin prickled with cold. I stared, waiting, hoping that it would stop. But instead, the chair pivoted fully to face the bedroom doorway. Toward me then, from behind the closet door, a faint knock. 1, 2, 3, deliberate, rhythmic. Inside the closet, I took a step back. But the floor beneath my foot creaked louder than it should have. Too loud. Unnaturally loud. The kind of sound that felt intentional. Like a warning, or a response. And then another sound. This one wasn't like the breathing or the humming. This was speaking. Not clear words. Not anything I could understand. Just fragmented syllables. Garbled like a voice underwater. Trying to form speech, but failing. Sha, sha, CHH. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old, just wrong. A voice that didn't belong to anything that should exist. Here, I clutched the doorframe, fingers digging into the wood. Logic was slipping away. I wasn't sure if I should grab my phone, run, or simply freeze and pretend none of this was real. But then, the humming stopped. The whispering stopped. Everything stopped. Total silence. For a moment, I hoped it was over, that I imagined it all, but that's when I looked down. The footprints had multiplied, no longer a single trail from the side of my bed. Now, there were several, all around the room, encircling me, and then, clear as day right behind me, a voice whispered, "Don't turn around." The presence without a face, my entire body locked, muscles stiff, breath shallow. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to obey that voice, to not turn around, to freeze, to disappear. But I couldn't stop the tremble spreading from my hands to my legs. The words repeated in my skull, like a command carved into my bones. Don't turn around. My eyes scanned the room, desperate for any sign of escape, of explanation, but the only thing I could see was the growing number of footprints, some fresh and damp, others already fading, as though evaporating into the air, or sinking into the wood itself. Something was here, not just watching, it was moving, surrounding me. But no matter how hard I stared into the corners, under the bed, into the shadows, there was nothing there. Nothing I could see, but I could feel it. The pressure in the air grew heavier, as though the room itself had become smaller, denser. My ears popped like I was descending into deep water. I instinctively glanced toward the mirror hanging by the closet, and froze in the reflection. I saw it. Not a figure, not a shape, just an absence. A distortion, the way heat shimmers above asphalt, warping the space around it. But this shimmer was cold, bending light in a way that told my brain something is standing there. But it had no face, no form, just a suggestion of presence. I whipped around, reflex, panic, stupidity, but nothing was there. Only empty space. Yet the feeling didn't leave. It grew stronger. I was being studied, examined, as if this thing was curious, or deciding something. Then came the softest scrape, the sound of nails, long, thin nails dragging across the underside of my bed. I stumbled back, hitting the wall, gasping. My eyes shot down, nothing. I dropped to the floor, checked under the bed, empty. But the sound continued. SCRAA, ape, ... SCRAA, ape, ... I scrambled to my feet, chest heaving. Panic clawed at my throat, but the logical part of my mind kept whispering, you have to stay calm. You have to understand this. You have to survive this. Then another sound, a thud. The closet door. It wasn't open anymore. It was shut, completely shut, and worse. Something was moving behind it, slow, deliberate, like fingertips tracing the inner frame. I backed toward the hallway, desperate to flee, but as soon as I stepped over the threshold, a loud bang echoed behind me. I spun around just in time to see it. The mirror, a single wet handprint, had appeared on the glass. Not mine. It was too large, the fingers too long. I stared, frozen in disbelief, as droplets of water trickled from the print down the surface, as though the hand was still pressed against the other side of the mirror, watching me, waiting. And then, the whisper returned. This time, closer, right at my ear. You were supposed to be asleep. The unspoken warning. I stumbled backward, nearly falling as the voice sank into my skin like ice water. My hand shot toward the light switch, flipping it up, down, up again, but nothing happened. The bulb didn't flicker, didn't even try, as if the very wiring had been swallowed by whatever force now infested my home. A realization dawned, and it felt like it wasn't even mine, as if something wanted me to understand, to accept. This wasn't random. This wasn't some glitch in reality. This presence, wanted to be noticed. The footprints, the breathing, the voice, the cold pressure in the air. None of it was accidental. It had a pattern, a sequence, like a ritual unfolding step by step. And then I saw it, on my bedroom wall, right above the headboard. Something that hadn't been there before. A symbol, drawn in condensation, perfectly symmetrical. 3 intersecting circles, with a crude spiral carved through the center. The lines dripped, as though freshly traced by an invisible finger. I stared at it, pulse hammering, mind racing to connect the dots. What does it mean? Why now? Why me? And then my eyes drifted lower. The footprints. They weren't random either. Not anymore. Now they formed a crude shape, a wide oval, with an empty space in the middle, an absence, a place, a spot where something was meant to stand, or perhaps where something already was. I backed away, my breath trembling as I pressed against the hallway wall. Logic slipped further away with every heartbeat, but something else surfaced in its place, and understanding. A gut-deep realization so primal, it didn't even need words. This was a warning. This thing doesn't want me to see it, but it desperately wants me to know it's here. As if confirming the thought, the air shifted again. A wave of cold swept through the hallway. The framed photo on the wall fell, shattering against the floor. I jumped, gasped, but then something caught my eye. Beneath the shattered glass, tucked inside the back of the frame, a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I bent down to pick it up. I unfolded it slowly, unsure of what I even expected. Inside, only 4 words, scrawled in frantic, uneven handwriting. "It knows you're awake." A deafening silence followed. No more footsteps. No breathing. No scraping. Just the sound of my own blood pounding in my ears. And then faintly, barely audible, coming from the bedroom. A single knock. Not from the closet. Not from the wall. From under the bed. The moment of truth. I stood paralyzed in the hallway, clutching the note as if it were some kind of shield. My eyes darted toward the bedroom, toward that small, dark void beneath the bed where the knock had come from. Silence again. But not the comfortable silence of an empty room. No, this was the kind of silence that felt ... crowded. A suffocating presence that filled every crack, every shadow, every breath. I swallowed hard, weighing my options. Run, but run where? The front door was 3 steps behind me, but something deep inside whispered that unlocking it, opening it, wouldn't help. Or, look, face it, confront whatever was happening. The question wasn't whether it wanted me to notice it anymore. The question was, what happens if I don't? The weight of the footprints on the floor, the handprint on the mirror, the humming, the whispers. They weren't attacks. They were announcements. It's here. It wants me to know. A sudden shift in the air pulled me out of my thoughts like a subtle vacuum, a rush of stillness sucking away all other sound. My bedroom door, which I had left wide open, now slowly began to close. The hinges didn't squeal. The movement was smooth, controlled, and as it shut, a single phrase bloomed in my mind, not spoken aloud, not whispered, but injected directly into my thoughts. Choose. My breath hitched. I realized then, the presence wasn't random. It had boundaries, rules, or perhaps an agreement, a choice. I could leave. Pretend none of this happened. Lock the bedroom door, sleep on the couch, leave the lights on, drown the night in noise until morning. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe it would stay confined. For now. Or I could open the bedroom door, step inside, look under the bed, face it. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I could feel the chill radiating from the other side. My fingers tingled. My skin crawled. But curiosity, the poisonous kind, the fatal kind, dug its hooks into me. I gripped the knob, turned it. The door opened silently, revealing the bedroom exactly as it was. The footprints, the warped reflection in the mirror, the symbol on the wall. now smeared as though someone dragged a hand across it, and the bed, the cold, heavy air thickened as I stepped inside, each footstep sinking into a gravity that felt almost liquid. I dropped to my knees, heart hammering, breath ragged, and slowly lifted the edge of the blanket hanging to the floor. Darkness, pure, endless black. But then two things happened simultaneously. First, I saw it. Or rather, I didn't. Because there was no shape, no figure, just an emptiness. A hole in space itself. A void where light refused to exist, like reality itself, bent away from that spot. Second, it breathed. Not air, not sound, but something far worse. It breathed thought. You shouldn't have looked. The voice wasn't outside me. It was inside, slithering through my head like liquid ice, infecting every corner of my mind. The air snapped. The mirror cracked. The closet door flung itself open with a thunderous bang. It wasn't in one place anymore. It was in all places, all at once. I stumbled back, hit the nightstand, sending the lamp crashing to the floor, but no light came. Only the feeling of that thing now filling the room, the hallway, the entire apartment. No more whispers, no more knocks. Only silence. The kind that listens. The inevitability of darkness. The silence was different now. Not the anticipatory hush of something waiting, but the oppressive stillness of something that had already decided. There was no running, no hiding. Not anymore. The shadows weren't just shadows. They had depth, now a density. The walls seemed to pulse in and out, as if the apartment itself were breathing, but not with air, with something else. Something heavier. I stumbled back toward the hallway, but the apartment had shifted, subtly, impossibly. The doorway didn't look the same anymore. The hallways seemed longer, too long, endless, as though the space had stretched, warped into something unfamiliar. I blinked, looked again. The hallway now ended in a solid wall. The front door was gone. The apartment had sealed itself. A sudden creak came from behind me. The bed. I turned, slowly, not because I wanted to, but because it felt like the air itself forced me. The footprints were moving, not being made. No, they weren't appearing step by step. Instead, the existing footprints shifted, rotated, rearranged, as if an invisible figure was pacing in circles around me, dragging its presence across the wood, leaving trails that made no sense, until they did. I stared as they formed something else, a symbol, a shape, a spiral, but not just any spiral. This one, bent inward, folding on itself, a visual trap, a suggestion of falling into something with no bottom. And then the whisper returned. But now, it wasn't just one voice. It was many layers, overlapping, speaking at once. Some behind me, some above, some inside my own head. It saw you, it heard you, it knows you, it follows you, it won't forget. The walls quivered. The mirror shattered completely, glass raining down but never hitting the floor. It just vanished midair, dissolving like mist, and then the lights came on. Every bulb in the apartment flared to life at once, harsh sterile white light flooding every corner. But instead of relief, it revealed something worse. The footprints, hundreds now, not just around the bedroom, but through the hallway, the living room, the kitchen, the floors, the walls, the ceiling. All of them led to me. Every trail, every step, every mark, pointing directly at me, as if the entire apartment was a map, and I was the destination. The air pulsed one last time, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through my ribs, through my bones, through my teeth. Then everything went dark, not the gentle dark of light switching off, not the comfortable black of closed eyes. This was an absence of everything, a darkness that swallowed even the idea of light. And in that nothingness, a final voice, singular, clear. You live alone, but you're never alone again. The fear that stays when I woke, If you can call it waking, it was morning. Pale daylight leaked through the curtains, as if the night had never happened. The lights were back to normal. The mirror was intact. The footprints were gone. The note, gone. The symbol on the wall, clean. Everything was perfectly ordinary, eerily so. But I knew something had changed. The silence was different now. No longer empty. It had a texture to it, a presence, as if the walls were still watching, as if the air itself remembered. I spent hours searching, looking under the bed, behind the closet, checking the windows, every drawer, every corner. I told myself you imagined it, a hallucination, sleep deprivation, a bad dream that leaked into reality. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself, I couldn't unhear that voice. You live alone, but you're never alone again. The worst part isn't the memory of that night. It's what followed. Little things. Small, almost imperceptible disturbances. Things I could explain away, if I was desperate enough. A light bulb unscrewed halfway while I was in the other room. A glass tipped over on a completely flat surface. My keys moved exactly 2 inches from where I left them. A faint outline on the bathroom mirror. Every time it fogs up like a handprint that refuses to fully fade. And the worst of all, the footprints. Not every day, not every night, but some mornings just some I wake up and glance at the floor beside my bed, and there it is. One damp, bare footprint, standing still, facing the bed, facing me. I tried everything. Salt lines, prayers, cleansing, sleeping with the lights on. It doesn't matter, because the truth is, it doesn't care about doors, about walls, about light. It's not in the apartment, it's in me now. A shadow stitched just behind my thoughts. Something I can't see unless I let my guard down, unless I stop pretending it's not there. And sometimes, in that fragile space between wakefulness and sleep, I hear it, breathing soft, steady, right next to my ear. It waits, because it knows, it knows, it knows, I know. And the worst part, the part that gnaws at the back of my mind like teeth scraping bone. It was never about the footprints. It was about the fact that they start beside my bed, and they never lead away. Could you sleep after hearing this? What do you think really happened? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you dare, watch another story before bed. Just be sure to check the floor beside your bed first.